Hi, I'm Buffy, and I talk about movies because sometimes there are so many baffling decisions made while making it that you just have to get to the bottom of what might have been done to fix it. Today, we're going to be talking about The Running Man, directed by Edgar Wright and starring Glenn Powell, Josh Brolin, Coleman Domingo, Daniel Ezra, Emilia Jones, and Michael Cera. I'll explain why I decided to put so many actors' names in here. The movie is based on the novel of the same name by Stephen King, and when I heard that it was coming out, I got super excited. So in preparation for watching this movie, I read the book because I love seeing filmmakers interpret books in their own unique ways. I like observing their vision, what they choose to put emphasis on, and what they choose to disregard, especially filmmakers that I love. And I absolutely love Edgar Wright. All of his films have great comedic timing, emotional pull, and unique style. So what the fuck happened here? Before I dive into a more spoiler-filled discussion, let's generally review what the biggest issue of this film is, in my opinion, which is that it just seemed heartless. It is such an unexpected outcome because Edgar Wright's movies, even the ones that I'm not the biggest fan of, feel so heartwarming. You can clearly feel the love and care put into his other films, whereas here I just didn't really feel anything. Usually Edgar Wright's movies have this pulsing rhythm almost, pacing that's extremely well planned and effective. In The Running Man, however, we come across so many characters and spend so little time with them that we don't feel anything when they're no longer on screen. The book also suffers from this issue, but less so in my opinion. When I was choosing which actors to name in the intro for this video, I struggled a lot because the only character on screen that I consider to have had at least some emotional connection with is Ben Richards, but he's played by Glenn Powell, so... Oh, don't worry, I'll get to him in a second. But yeah, I just didn't feel anything watching this film. And what happens when the audience is unable to emotionally connect with the characters or the story? You start looking at the spectacle more closely and dissecting the technical aspects of the film more ruthlessly. At least that's what happens to me, personally. So let's dive in, shall we? So this film just baffled me to no end. I really wanted to get to the bottom of what the fuck happened with the artistic vision. I heard that Edgar Wright had talked about the fact that he wanted to make this version of the movie a more faithful adaptation of the book, but it ended up being so tonally different from Stephen King's writing that I really couldn't wrap my head around that statement. So I decided to check out the original movie that came out in 1987 and stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, and let's just say that this one has literally nothing in common with the book except for the character names and like the game show aspect of it. But can I just say, this film has so much goofy personality. Straight out of the gate, you know what you're getting into with Arnold's stilted acting, absolutely spelled out messaging with cliche story points, and some absurdly beautiful cheeseball lines. Like,
give you a lift?
Or the one where after like cutting Buzzsaw, was his name, I guess, in half, he's just like,
what happened to Baza?
He had to split.
And many, many more.
Well, that hit the spot.
This is peak 80s action schlock, and it had me giggling the entire time. And yes, I think it's a bad movie and a bad adaptation of the book, but it's still so much fun to watch, unlike this new version, devoid of all personality, which is a crazy thing to say about an Edgar Wright film. Even Last Night in Soho, which people weren't crazy about, had so much charm about it and felt like it was being made with love, whereas The Running Man felt like a product, just like any other studio-made action thing that you'll forget about within hours. But if you're like me, you won't forget about it, and it will eat you up until you discuss it with or at strangers on the internet. So get ready, boys. This one's gonna be a rant, and a long one at that. Let's be honest, it probably already is. In this spoiler-free section, I'm just quickly going to list off all the things that I didn't like about the film and some things that I did. I'll start with the positives. There were a couple of oneers, Jesus, okay. There were a couple of oneers that were impressively filmed. This one in the hallway seems like it would take an insane amount of coordination to execute, so that's cool, I guess. I liked this decision right here, the camera being stuck in the trunk of the car with Ben Richards. It was a refreshing way of experiencing a car chase, so that was the most interesting thing about the whole film, in my opinion. This fight scene in a cockpit of a plane was kind of cool. Oh, and the best thing about the whole movie, Coleman Domingo's performance performance. He's so charismatic, he's having it up, just having a grand old time. I was happy when he was on screen. Actually, in the old Running Man as well, Richard Dawson, who played Josh Brolin's and Coleman Domingo's characters combined, was my favorite part. He killed it as the TV network head and the show's host. He was campy, he hemmed it up, but also had like a level of gravitas to him that worked really well and balanced out Arnold's, let's call it acting.
You know who I am?
I've seen you before. You're the asshole on TV.
That's funny. I was going to say the same thing about you.
In the new version too, both Coleman Domingo and Josh Brolin are really good in the film. They're really well cast. I mean, Josh Brolin could probably do this in his sleep too, but they were both appropriately campy and quite consistent in my opinion. Okay, I think this sums up the things that I like about this movie. Now let's get to the negatives, and in my opinion, the thing that really hindered my experience of watching this film the most, outside of the script itself, was the editing. I think the pacing of the movie is so all over the place that it's difficult to get into any of the side plots, side characters, or story development. And I think it's because of the editing. It felt like this 2-hour and 13-minute film was originally meant to be like 3 hours, and that's why they had to cram a lot into this shortened version. After the initial incident in the film, I also had this thought that the filmmakers maybe wanted to channel the pacing of Run Lola Run a little bit, but then that also like went away. So I don't know. The pacing is so inconsistent and certain shots are cut so quickly, it kind of almost gives you a whiplash. The pacing aside, technically speaking, visually, The Running Man is shot competently but heartlessly. There are attempts at Edgar Wright's playful montage style, but it's so underwhelming. Like, look at the difference between these two films. Hot Fuzz and The Running Man. In The Running Man, the montage is just too tame. And also, I don't know if it's because of my speakers or if it's the film's problem, but some sound effects were kinda quiet or inappropriate. I don't know. I noticed like a couple of very quiet or underwhelming explosion sounds. It was weird. And last but certainly not the least of the offenders is the script itself. It's so bland and tonally inconsistent and unfortunately unfunny. It was really, really bad. And I'm extremely disappointed. I fucking read the book in preparation for this film, and let me just say, the book is so average in my opinion. I was happy about that since in this case, there's so much room for improvement, right? I was like, hell yeah, this movie is gonna be so much more impactful. I was excited about the whole thing. And then I watched the movie and it's even more average and generic than the book. How is that even possible? How is this film so tonally all over the place? Well, I have a theory. I think the writers, Edgar Wright, and the studio itself got hung up on the tone of the previous film, but still wanted to make a more faithful adaptation of the book to justify remaking the movie. Also, the justification could have been that, the book takes place in 2025 and it's 2025 and it was 2025. You know what I mean. But the book is tonally very serious, a little too much so, if you ask me. It takes itself super seriously. So I think the film couldn't decide what to do, whether to go with the wacky original movie style or to take the subject matter seriously and cover all the social messaging in the book. So they just did both and gave us this inconsistent, weirdly inappropriate mixture. Okay, I think it's finally time to get into the spoilers. I'll be spoiling the book, I'll be spoiling the movie, and I'll probably be spoiling the old Arnold movie. I don't know. I actually would recommend watching the latter with a couple of beers and with some friends to keep you company. It's really fun and extremely dumb. So go for it. Anyway, here's your spoiler warning. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers ahoy! Let's fucking go! Okay, I'm getting way too into it, I think. I just need to calm down. It's just a movie. It's just a movie.
It only a movie.
Alright, this movie is stuck in this tonally inconsistent limbo between the book and the original movie. It tries to convey the emotional charge of the book while keeping it light and cheesy like the Arnold Running Man. Now, I'm just gonna talk about the book for a bit. The whole theme of the novel is economic inequality of the masses. The lower class people can't even afford cold medicine, while while the high-class people look down on them and treat them like they're scum. The media company knows how desperate these people are and exploits them for entertainment at the expense of their health and even life. In the book, the only people chosen for the Running Man are people with no other choices. Nobody has ever won the Running Man, so people who agree to be in it know that they're going to die. And even if they don't realize it, Killian literally tells them that there is no way that they will survive. So when these three people sign their contracts to take part in the Running Man, it becomes completely clear how desperate they actually are. However, in the film, Josh Brolin actually just goes the opposite way. He's like, Ben, my boy, you totally have a chance to win. You should totally sign up. Why? What's the purpose of this change? To show that the head of the media conglomerate is a lying son of a bitch? I think we already know he's a bad guy. No good guy has ever had teeth like that, okay? Okay, I need to calm down. Killian also says that the running... I say I need to calm down, and then I'm just like, Killian, bitch! And whatever. Okay. In the book, Killian also says that the Running Man is designed to get rid of people like Ben, natural leaders who refuse to bow down to authority. None of that is conveyed in the film, and the fact that there's somebody chosen to take part in the Running Man who's a fan of the show is just fucking weird, okay? In the book, the show serves a few purposes: brainwashing of the masses, antagonizing the lower class, and eliminating threats, right? In the movie, I don't really know what the purpose of the show is other than entertainment. Okay, so while editing, I noticed an offhanded remark where Common Domingo's character just says something about these contestants not wanting to work for a living, right? In an attempt to antagonize the lower class. So I guess it was there a little bit, but I had forgotten about it, which says a lot. It's much more prominent in the Arnold movie, actually, because Killian says a couple of times it's better to keep the audiences glued to their TV screens rather than having them protest in the streets or whatever, you know, something like that. So I don't know. I remember the original movie's commentary. I didn't remember this one. Also, I forgot to mention in the review, the music is so overbearing and is so insistent that there's something intense or badass happening on screen, but we can see the screen, so we're not gonna fall for that. Anyway, that's it. The breakdown of the show during the second act of the movie is meant to mirror the way reality TV shows choose their contestants, I think, but then we lose the sight of the social and financial inequality and focus more on the media manipulation. Did I just say mon or? And focus mon or. It's not mon or, it's more on, you moron. And we don't feel bad when that one contestant dies because he's a fucking idiot. For a movie that tries to have some emotional beats and emotional pull, that's a really bad decision in my opinion. And let's talk about this character, Bradley, and the changes that were made with him. In the book, this is a guy who uncovers the truth that media and the government are covering up. People are dying of lung cancer because of air pollution in the area where there are some factories, if I remember correctly. And the lower class people can't afford air filters or nose filters. Nose filters, I think they're called in the book. These nose filters are attachable directly to your nose and cost hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, I don't remember, in pharmacies, right? This all happens to be news for Ben Richards, and he feels deeply connected to this character because of his own daughter's condition, and because he himself spoke up about the fact that the company he was working for didn't care about the fact that the work affected the employees' health and left them sterile. Sterile. Regardless, in my opinion, Bradley is the best character of the book because he's someone who grows up in complete poverty and therefore is illiterate, but then learns how to read and write on his own, illegally frequents the library, and learns how to make air filters with cheap materials. He shares his knowledge with Ben Richards and inspires him to stand for something in the show. What the movie does instead is mention this pivotal information with an offhanded remark and make Bradley's character an expert of the Running Man and basically break the fourth wall to explain to the audience the filmmaker's decision-making for the other contestants. It was a nothing scene, really. It kind of pays off at the end with the rebellion thing, I guess, but I don't think sacrificing the best character of the book was worth it. The only part of the movie where the audience could have potentially connected to the characters and relate to their journey was when Amelia turns up. There were changes made to their dynamic as well from the book, but I think the role was well cast, and this reversal of hostage situation could have worked worked really well. It was just frustrating to watch the movie kind of gloss over Ben Richards' thought process, because in the book, this is the part where Ben finally displays his agency, cleverness, and foresight when it comes to anticipating the media responses. I'm guessing these discussions were more fleshed out in the film originally, but didn't make the final cut of the film. This whole section was chopped to shit and didn't convey the shift in the dynamic between the characters nearly well enough. Everything just happens too fast, and none of it has much of an impact on the audience. Okay, should I go to Glenn Powell now? I think I should. I should explain my fucking hatred of Glenn Powell, which is so unreasonable, but okay, let's get into it. Everyone on the face of the earth seems to love him, and they all consider him insanely charismatic, except for me. I don't like him. I have no justification for this whatsoever. I just don't connect to him as a leading man for some reason, and I don't like his face. I know I'm being completely unreasonable, but bear with me for a second, okay? He looks like a stereotypical American high school quarterback dating, the main blonde cheerleader. He looks like a guy who'd say, I would have gone pro if I hadn't torn my ACL, unironically, okay? He looks like he thinks he's cooler and funnier than he is, okay? I'm sorry, I know none of this is justified and none of it makes sense, but I'm just the biggest Glenn Powell hater. Outside of probably his ex-girlfriend, who he allegedly cheated on with a horrible actress 10 years younger than him. What's her face? What's Sweeney Todd? No, not Sweeney Todd. Sydney Sweeney, right. All right. All joking aside, I don't connect with him, okay? I don't find him relatable when he's on screen. And yet, I can look past that and past my absolutely unreasonable hatred of this man when he's involved in an interesting project and he's delivering a good performance, okay? He was honestly fucking great in Hitman, where he takes on multiple disguises and nails all of the character work that he needs to. He was super fun to watch in that film. So when in The Running Man, he gets given like a couple of different disguises, it seemed to me that his role in Hitman was the reason why he was cast as Ben Richards, or the film was trying to like emulate some scenes from Hitman, but because every single scene in The Running Man is cut to shit and extremely short, none of it worked for me. And Glenn Powell just felt miscast. He's too normal looking, too handsome and athletic, and he's certainly not as absurdly absurd and charismatic as Arnold in the original. Ben Richards is kind of a bland character in the book, and he's even worse in the movie. In all seriousness, I don't actually blame Glenn Powell for this, though, as much as I would like to, as his official and professional hater. I just think nobody involved in the making of this film knew what they wanted to do with this character, except he loves his wife and kid, which is his only consistent trait. Was this whole spiel about Powell necessary? Maybe not, but I just wanted to come out as his hater to you guys. I'm just trying to keep it real here. I'm trying to show you all of my cards. His jaw is too chiseled. Okay, I'm done. God, what is wrong with me? Nope, let's not open that can of worms. Okay, let's continue with the comparison with the book, okay? Michael Cera's character, Elton Parakis, was also changed in the film, and seemingly just for comedic effect, which didn't really pay off in my opinion. The humor seemed forced and unnatural and unfunny to me, unfortunately. Parakis' character wasn't that fleshed out in the book though, so I don't have much to say about him. The filmmakers added his backstory, if my memory serves me right, but it was a weak attempt at giving him motivation to be this unhinged character, in my opinion. In the book, he's the complete opposite. He's very quiet, shy, and kind. I don't have any strong emotions when it comes to him in the book or in the movie. I just disliked the main character in the book for the way he perceived Parakis and the way he treated him. He was kind of being an asshole when he was around Parakis. And that's what I mean when I say that there was so much room for improvement with this book. When I read something like The Three-Body Problem, for example, which in my opinion is basically a perfect sci-fi book, I don't really want to see many changes made in the story, especially the ones that Netflix decided to make for some fucking reason. But with The Running Man, there are so many weird or underdeveloped concepts in it, and just also random racism and AAVE, which I'm guessing was supposed to add to the world building, I guess? Okay, if this has some other purpose and you've read the book, can you please let me know what the fuck was up with that? Anyway, this movie has a potential to be so much better than the book, and I'm gonna give you my 2 cents on what could have been done with it to make it so. Listen, I'm an absolute dumbass, so take everything I say with a grain of salt, but this is just what I came up with. And again, I'm a dumbass. That's why there are professional writers, like script writers out there. They're supposed to be able to do this. Okay, I need to calm down. Third time's a charm, baby. I think that there were a couple of ways they could have gone about adapting this book. I'm not sure whose idea it was to make another Running Man, whether the studio was going to make it anyway and then hired Edgar Wright to do it, or whether it was his idea to begin with. If it was Edgar Wright's idea and wish to remake this film and make it this fun, exciting, colorful thing, I think the writers should have given him an ensemble cast to work with, because I think that's where his storytelling shines the most. They could have done what the OG Running Man did and made the other contestants his crew, or, and I think this is a better idea, they could have teamed him up with Bradley for the majority of the film, or for the entire second act at least, right until the last act where he meets Amelia is her name? Yes, I think so. Both in the book and the film, Ben Richards is quite a passive character for the first 2 acts. He gets help from other characters and that's how he survives. I think it could be more fun to have this duo make a meaningful connection while in hiding and survive together, but then you'd have to kill off Bradley, which is what happens in the book, and you'd have this emotional, devastating moment that pushes Ben over the edge and makes him make a drastic decision like kidnapping the girl to make Killian pay for everything. Instead, what we get is just chaos and bad humor and some cheesy lines that should have made me giggle, I guess, but instead just made me roll my eyes.
Stop filming me!
Stop fucking filming me!
You think you'll be able to stop me from seeing my daughter? Whatever the fuck it was.
You wanna know who's stopping you from seeing your kid again? You!
And completely unearned, meant to be emotional scenes. I knew the ending would be changed because you can't really end a piece of media with a plane going through a skyscraper after 9/11, but I thought they would kill off Ben Richards, like in the book. I also hated the way the main character reacted to the news of his family being dead. It was so shallow and unemotional. In the book, he first dissociates, then thinks about his wife and child in pictures, basically, like a slideshow, kind of. At that point, he's deathly injured pretty much, and he goes in and out of consciousness, and then he drifts off to sleep and he sees this kind of nightmare and just screams uncontrollably as he wakes up, which scares the shit out of Amelia, and then he feels this remorse. He wants to like comfort her, which is like a weirdly strange thing. He's going through this horrible grief, but he finally feels like he wants to comfort another person. It's a really emotional scene. Then after some time, he walks around, he talks to pilots, he learns about the plane and how it works. He walks into like a kitchen area of the plane and sees a pot that his wife always wanted because it's durable, but they could never afford it. And he just finds himself weeping calmly and silently. It was so sad and so impactful, so emotional in the book, especially because in the book, his family is actually dead. In the movie, not only was there no emotional impact during the reveal of the death of his family, but also the family is actually alive. It is such a Hollywood happy ending. I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling about it. I understand in the Arnold movie, it's a cheesy happy end. Arnold doesn't even have a wife in that one, you know? It's such a goofball of a movie that it makes sense that that's how it would end, with a kiss. It was just so stupid. It's great. But in this one, I'm just questioning everything because the movie tries to take itself also seriously somewhat. So now I'm asking, why did Killian have to lie about his family? I don't understand. Would it not be a better motivation for Richards to take the job just to provide for his family for life, to give them a comfortable life? Like what? Why? I don't get it. Like, honestly, I don't even want to be discussing these plot holes because I don't think I would mind them as much if the movie wasn't so bland and uninspired and unimpactful, and if I cared about literally anything taking place on screen. I was bored and annoyed throughout the whole movie, and the word disappointment doesn't even come close to what I felt while watching this film and what I feel right now. And honestly, This is gonna be a weird statement, but I think Edgar Wright was miscast as the director of this film and this adaptation, okay? This is what should have been done, in my opinion, in my humble, uneducated opinion, okay? I think they should have just completely disregarded the original movie with Arnold and should have taken the Suspiria route. They should have taken the story of the book extremely seriously and developed the story, paid more attention to the world building, and shown the juxtaposition of the colorful Freevee shows and the real world. They should have taken like a fucking Denis Villeneuve level of a filmmaker and turned this into like an impactful, artistic sci-fi, okay? That, I think, could have worked much better because it would tonally become more consistent. You would change what needs to be changed in the book, and then you'd get the product, which is so different from the original movie that you don't even want to compare the two. That would have been a better way to do it, okay? That's my completely uneducated, completely unhinged, completely dumb opinion, okay? Thank you so much. Now for my final thoughts about the film. Don't watch it. Unless you want to see a generic action movie. Instead, watch Edgar Wright's other films. The Cornetto trilogy is fantastic. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is so funny and so quirky. I love it. And Baby Driver, which actually is maybe my least favorite Edgar Wright movie after The Running Man, of course. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of cars, so I don't know. But it's so massively shot that I definitely recommend it. Get into his other films if you still haven't seen them, and let me know what you think of this Running Man, what you think of Arnold's Running Man, or what you think of the book, or what you think of Edgar Wright's other movies, okay? Just let me know anything, really. Also, I would like to formally apologize for being so unhinged during this video. I'm sorry. Now, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you're interested in more movie reviews, and if you feel like it, of course, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Today's the day. Today's the day when I finally lose my mind. Okay. I've been recording for 47 minutes? Shit. Take me to church.